So if you're anything like me, at some point you've probably wondered which credit card company is truly the best. Is it the big names with all the flashy rewards and perks, or is it maybe one of the more low-key companies that just doesn't get talked about enough? Well, today we'll be answering that exact question. I'm going to be ranking 13 of the top credit card issuers out there, so you can find the best ones that fit your lifestyle and can also understand which ones you should completely avoid at all costs. And I'll be making those assessments based on these lenders' card options, point ecosystems, customer service, and more. For those unfamiliar with this ranking style of video, S tier is the highest ranking you can be, and in this case is going to represent the best of the best issuers. A tier is going to be for excellent lenders, but they just have something small that's keeping them from that top tier. B tier are for those issuers that are pretty solid, but are usually more quality for a niche situation. C tier is going to be for the issuers that just are pretty much lackluster overall. And finally, F tier, or the trash can tier in our case, is going to be for those lenders that you should just completely avoid. They're kind of just the worst of the worst. Remember too that this whole video is completely subjective, and I encourage you to leave your comments down below about how you would rank each of these lenders. But with all of that being said, you can see all the issuer options below here. We're going to go ahead and kick it off with Capital One. Capital One is a lender that has improved substantially over the past few years, specifically with their introduction of transfer partners a while back, as well as the release of the Capital One Venture X almost 3 years ago at this point. So these days, not only do they have one of the most popular premium travel credit cards in that Venture X I just mentioned, but they also offer a variety of other cards that pair well with it, most commonly that being the Capital One Saver one, which in combination with the Venture X makes up the Capital One Duo. As y'all have heard me talk about on the channel, the Capital One Duo is just one of those top tier setups that I'm pretty comfortable recommending to basically everybody, because with the Venture X and the Saver one, you're going to effectively cover all of your daily spend categories at least 2 to 3x, while also getting access to Capital One's lounge network and other luxury travel benefits with that premium travel card, while also getting all of this at a relatively low combined annual fee. And those cards' benefits and earning categories only become more powerful as a part of Capital One's Miles ecosystem, which is a big reason as to why Capital One as a whole is a very powerful lender in my opinion. A lot of folks don't love the fact that Capital One's transfer partners do not have really direct domestic airline access, but you can still find really great value domestically if you know how to utilize airline alliances to then book your domestic flights and still get a respectable cent per point value. So yes, it does take a little bit more work to get value from their ecosystem, but their transfer partners are definitely not bad. Also, I want to mention that with Capital One's cashback credit cards like the Saver One and the Quicksilver, for example, you can convert that cash back to miles if you have one of the venture cards, but you cannot do that in reverse, so beware of that. As for some objective negatives here that I feel like I should cover, for one, Capital One has one of the most annoying approval processes as it comes to their cards in general, as well as credit limit increases. Basically, if they can't profit off of you, they're going to deny you, which means that a lot of people with excellent credit scores and great credit history actually have a hard time getting approved for Capital One cards. And secondly, their customer service is very hit or miss. It seems like if you have one of their premium cards, specifically the Venture X like I have, you will get some pretty great customer service, but if you don't have that card, you might be out of luck. With all of that being said, we need to rank Capital One here. And to me, I would say that they're actually like a quintessential A tier credit card lender with room to get a little bit better, but still very powerful. Moving over to Bank of America now. Bank of America is not a company that's going to scream premium credit card, but they have some really solid perks for those of you that want to be loyal customers. At face value, they have a seemingly unimpressive line of credit cards in the unlimited cash, customized cash, premium rewards, and premium rewards elite. And I say unimpressive because these cards are going to offer you just anywhere from 1.5 to 3% cash back on all of your purchases, but that's really the max value that you can get. Unless, of course, you utilize the thing that makes Bank of America so powerful in the cashback space, that being their preferred rewards program. Long story short here, if you're somebody that has over $100,000 in assets under management with Bank of America, or Merrill Lynch, because they're connected there as well, you can be at the top of their preferred reward system and you'll get a 75% boost on your credit card earning rates. So this is going to make your 3% categories worth 5.25% and your flat 1.5% categories worth 2.625%. So now if you are a part of that system, I mean, you're actually beating basically every cashback setup out there. As you've heard me say throughout this section, their points ecosystem is very limited because they only give you cashback. And that's what's going to make it really hard for me to rank them anywhere above B tier, really. As a matter of fact, let's just move them there now. They're going to be sitting strongly in the top of B tier for now. By the way, I do know that you can get a 20% boost on your rewards with the Premium Rewards Elite credit card by booking travel through their portal. But the more important thing here is that you have no access to transfer partners, which is why I have them slotted in B. Now let's move into one of my favorite lenders as of recent, Citi. Citi's core lineup of credit cards have some of the highest earning categories out of anyone, the main four being the Citi Double Cash, Citi Custom Cash, Citi Strata Premier, and Citi Rewards Plus. And that is all on top of their co-branded cards, which are also pretty solid. To maximize your spending with Citi cards, people like to go ahead and get the Citi Trifecta or Quadfecta, which I've covered in detail in a past video, but it's pretty hard to argue the value that these cards can provide you. For example, you have the Citi Double Cash giving you a flat 2% on everything. Then you slot in the Citi Custom Cash to give you 5% on your top eligible spending category every month up to $500 spent. The Citi Strata Premier covers you on a broad range of 3% categories, including dining and grocery. And the Rewards Plus is there to give you some extra points for all of the points that you redeem throughout the year. Speaking of their reward system, Citi Thank You Points are honestly really solid, and they have an underrated list of transfer partners that are comparable to Chase and Amex. They also have really good flexibility of redemptions, meaning that you can always redeem your points for high value through Citi's transfer partners if you have a Citi Strata Premier, but you can also use their portal at 1 cent per point if you wanted, which I wouldn't recommend, or you can always cash out your Citi Thank You Points for cashback at 1 cent per point, making their setup good for people on Team Travel or Team Cashback alike. I definitely want to note though that Citi's customer service has some pretty negative reviews, and while they're known for having a decently strong online portal, it seems like the phone service is where people run into issues, and I haven't had the best experience with that personally either. Also, another big complaint with Citi is that they removed their travel protections on their cards a while back. As y'all know, this is not a big deal to me because you can just use a different card with travel protections to even just pay for the taxes and fees on your trips, and then you don't have to worry about the fact that Citi's cards don't have it. I know the Citi Strata Premier did recently introduce some travel protection, but that's not very competitive, so overall it's really not a big deal to me, but it could be to you. With their really strong card lineup and point ecosystem, I'm very much like wanting to slot them above Capital One, but in comparing the two side by side, Citi is lacking in a couple categories, one being that Capital One has a lounge network, which is big, and they also have a premium travel credit card, which Citi does not right now. Hopefully Citi will start to add some of this stuff to their cards, but until they do, I can't put them any higher than Capital One, but I still do think that they deserve to be in the A tier, so we'll slot them right behind. Next up, we have Discover. Discover is well known for its cashback cards, specifically the Discover It cashback, which features 5% rotating quarterly categories as its main benefit. And to be fair, this card is one of the best cashback credit cards in existence, and I talked about it in one of my most recent videos. However, that's really the only card that they have in their lineup that is worth talking about. And with their cards being cashback dedicated cards once again, we know they're not going to be going any higher than B tier. Let's see where exactly we'll slot it within the last 3 tiers. I realize that Discover does hold a special place in a lot of people's hearts because they are great for beginners, and a lot of people actually start with the Discover It cashback. And as for customer service, they have some of the highest ratings out there, but even though they have those few positives, without them having any access to transfer partners and really only having one main card offering, I am still going to slot them in B tier, but I'm going to put them under Bank of America. Discover serves a really good purpose for a niche audience, like I said, beginners mainly, but outside of that, I just have a hard time recommending them. Okay, now let's move to an interesting one, Barclays. Barclays is mostly known for having co-branded credit cards in the hotel and airline space, as well as store cards. For example, they have the Wyndham cards, most notably the Earner Business Card, Hawaiian Airlines cards, JetBlue's cards, the Frontier Airlines card, and one that many of us know and love, the American Airlines Aviator Red card, which basically just gives you a free welcome offer. Barclays is not really as popular as the big name lenders that we'll talk about throughout this video, but for the fans of the hotels and airlines who they have co-branded cards with, they can be really amazing. As I mentioned, they also have store-specific credit cards, like the Barnes & Noble card is one that caught my eye because I love reading, the Old Navy card as well, and more. So there are some really solid niche opportunities here. Overall, I've heard that they have pretty mediocre customer service, but the fact that they have the ability to earn airline miles and hotel points on top of the cashback offerings that their store cards have provides a good amount of value that I'm going to take into consideration with this ranking. But at the end of the day, as an issuer, there's not just a ton to get really excited about. So I think the perfect place for them to sit is going to be in the C tier. I wouldn't avoid their cards by any means. I just think that they're kind of meh unless you like really love the hotels and airlines that they have co-branded cards with. And if that's the case, then you could rank them higher than I do. Moving over now to the lender that you either love or you hate, let's talk about Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is often overlooked in the credit card game. Well, at least they were until recent past when they've made a bunch of really good changes to their lineup, specifically with cards like the Autograph Journey, the Attune card, and the Built MasterCard. The Autograph card specifically, the free one, is really the best best no annual fee credit card for a lot of people out there, especially considering that it now gives you access to Wells Fargo's travel partners with no annual fee. And of course, the fact that they have the Bilt MasterCard as one of their co-branded credit cards is huge because the Bilt card is so popular and is still in a niche of its own since it's the only card that helps you earn any rewards on rent. As for the Wells Fargo points ecosystem as a whole, it really only used to be targeted at cashback users, but again, that was until recently when they added transfer partners alongside the Autograph Journey release. Unfortunately, at this point, their list of transfer partners is not that long, but there still are some really great sweet spot redemptions in there, and they look to add more transfer partners over time. Plus, you're still able to redeem your points for 1 cent per point at cashback if you wish to do so, which makes it very competitive in the space, similar to Citi and Chase, for example. Customer service at Wells Fargo has seemed to be a little bit more improved over the past couple of years, though they've definitely had some reputational issues in the past. And speaking of reputational issues, I know a lot of y'all out there just disregard Wells Fargo as a whole because of their scandal a while back. I personally think that the hate on them is a little bit outdated at this point, and you're not keeping any of your money with them. If you get their credit card products, you're just taking theirs. So I don't see why you wouldn't apply for their cards anymore, but hey, you may rank them F tier just because of that. So that's up to you. At the same time though, even though their points ecosystem and their cards are super competitive and would compete with the likes of the other A tier lenders that we have here today, I can't bring myself to rank them above Capital One or Citi with their lack of transfer partners at this point. So instead, I'm going to slot them in right behind those two. And remember that whenever I say lack of transfer partners, I just mean that their list is short because they do actually have the transfer partners, which is a big step up. And if those weren't out yet, this would be a B tier lender in my opinion. I do want to mention though that I just love seeing how hard they're pushing the credit card space because the more competition that we have, the better for us consumers. So just keep doing what you're doing, Wells Fargo. Okay, let's get into a juicy one now. Chase. Chase is, of course, one of the biggest players in the entire credit card space, known for not only their card lineup, but their ultimate rewards point ecosystem, which is arguably the best in the industry. To me, Chase's ecosystem is super easy to use, it's simple, plus it's super cheap to build out a really strong setup with their cards. Chase offers 3 main families of credit cards that you can apply for, at least that earn ultimate rewards points, that being the Chase Freedom cards, Chase Sapphire cards, and Chase Ink cards. And take any 3 of these card options in combination with each other, and you've just built yourself a Chase trifecta. On the personal card side, Chase's trifecta is most commonly composed of the Chase Freedom Flex, Chase Freedom Unlimited, and Chase Sapphire Preferred. But you can of course slot in whatever other cards you want, like say you swap the Chase Sapphire Preferred out for the Chase Ink Preferred on the business side, or the Chase Sapphire Reserve if you want to have a more luxury travel experience. Whatever you want to do, it's completely up to you. Also, Chase's Ultimate Rewards points are extremely flexible, offering top tier transfer partners like Hyatt, along with the ability to redeem your points for boosted value in their travel portal if you hold the Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Ink Preferred, or Chase Sapphire Reserve. Plus, you can always redeem your points at 1 cent per point for cashback like Citi and Wells Fargo. So overall, you really can do no wrong. Touching on their customer service, it's always been reliable for me, though it's not going to be like as highly ranked as Discover or Amex would be. For the premium card holders though, like me with the Chase Sapphire Reserve, I've seen even better service. So again, your mileage may vary with really all customer service. One of their biggest cons that people like to talk about is the Chase 524 rule, which basically just blocks you from Chase cards if you have too high of a velocity with any lender. But at the same time, if you play your cards right, pun intended, you can accumulate a ton of Chase Ultimate Rewards points and basically infinitely get Chase welcome offers with the right strategies in place. And with the Chase Ink card specifically, this is really exponentially true, mainly because they don't really have any kind of like rules against you getting multiple welcome offers on the same cards and stuff like that. So to me, their cards are absolutely perfect for those in the beginner to intermediate stage of their journey, especially if they don't know which route they want to go between cashback and travel. But they're also a lender that you can implement advanced strategies with on that business side, which I just love. So all of that being said, this is going to come as no surprise to anybody, but Chase is going to be our first and maybe only S tier credit card lender in this video. Now, taking a bit of a step down here, let's go ahead and talk about Synchrony. This may or may not be a lender you've ever heard of, but it's pretty possible that you actually have a card with them. Synchrony is mainly known for its store branded credit cards, those being like the Sam's Club cards, PayPal MasterCard, Verizon Visa, Venmo credit card, and more. Since Synchrony doesn't have its own established point structure and all of their cards operate within their own points ecosystems, mainly being cashback, there's really not too much to touch on in that regard. Further than that, their customer service is generally ranked below average, which I would say is to be expected when a lender is mainly dealing in the store card space. So Synchrony does have some solid card offerings, of course, like the ones I listed, but with no travel ecosystem or really like any cohesion among their cards, I don't think that I can rank them any higher than C tier. And honestly, I don't think I can put them higher than Barclays Barclays either, mainly because Barclays does give you that access to a hotel or airline ecosystem if that's what you want. With Synchrony, you're just really not getting that. So we'll go ahead and slot them at the bottom of C tier. Taking an even further step down for this next issuer, let's talk about Credit One. Right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and slot them in the trash tier and then explain to you why. For those that haven't heard of them before, despite the fact that their logo looks exactly like Capital One's, Credit One is known as like an entry-level card issuer, often catering to people with either fair or bad credit. And in all honesty, they're just super predatory in the sense that they charge really high interest rates, plus annoying fees that really nobody else does at this level, and have terrible customer service based on what I've read. Their points ecosystem is also virtually non-existent outside of cashback, so there's no way to get outsized value from your points even if you do have their cards. They do have a couple of seemingly interesting card offers in the X5 card and the Wander card, but both of those have $95 annual fees and no welcome offer, meaning that they're not ones that I would really consider at all, especially whenever you take into account all the negatives as a company that they have, as I just listed. Their only real saving grace is that their cards are super easy to get approved for, but that does not mean that you should do it. If you ever get one of their mailers, throw them in the trash, burn them, whatever you gotta do. I would not touch Credit One credit cards with a 10-foot pole. While we're on the trash tier train here, let's go ahead and just get this next one out of the way, that being Luxury Card. I won't even take the time to decide which one of these two is worse than the other. They're both just horrible. And to explain what Luxury Card is, it's basically the Credit One of luxury credit cards, and even calling them luxury cards hurts me to do, but it's their name, so I gotta do it. They're the company that's known for sending out mailers for their premium metal credit cards, with names like the Gold Card, Platinum Card, and probably the most popular, Black Card. These cards come with extremely high annual fees and really no benefits to boot, even though they pride themselves on having ultra luxury benefits. I mean, just look at their Gold Card details for reference here. It has a $995 annual fee, but is only gonna give you 2% cash back on all of your purchases with no welcome offer. It does have a couple of good benefits, to be fair, that being like the $100 TSA pre-check or global entry credit, the $200 annual airline credit, as well as a Priority Pass Select membership. But don't be fooled here. You can get these benefits on much cheaper cards. And without any transfer partners or way to really squeeze any actual value from the points on these cards, the perks couldn't ever offset the annual fee. Their target demo is probably just people that want the glitz and glam of a luxury card, but don't actually know what they're signing up for, which in my opinion is predatory once again. So yeah, having them in the trash tier is exactly the right place for them, in my opinion. Now it's time for one of my favorite lenders that I actually don't have any credit cards from right now, US Bank. US Bank offers a few notable credit cards like the US Bank Cash Plus, Altitude Go, the recently announced Smartly Visa Signature, and more. But the most famous of them all has to be the Altitude Reserve card, which in my opinion is the best one card setup that you can have on the entire market. And the main reason for that is because it gives you 3x back on all mobile wallet purchases, which basically makes it a 3% catch-all credit card. But further than that, with this card, you do have the ability to redeem your points for real-time rewards or through their travel portal at 1.5 cents per point, boosting the 3% catch-all category to 4.5%. So that, plus them having good customer service and a solid ecosystem as a whole, makes them a very competitive lender in my eyes, but there are some drawbacks, of course. For one, it can be pretty hard to get approved for their cards without an existing relationship with them, although it's not necessarily mandatory for you to have that. But bigger than that, they have no transfer partners as a part of their points ecosystem. So that's the biggest complaint that I have, as well as many other folks have, on top of you not being able to combine your points on the other Altitude cards with the Altitude Reserve. With those negatives considered, I still think that they're an extremely competitive lender, and I'm actually going to break my rule from earlier by putting them in the A tier, despite the fact that they are basically cashback credit cards. We'll put them at the bottom of A tier just so y'all don't get too mad at me. Okay, so only a couple of issuers left down here. And if you've been wondering what this CU logo is, that's going to stand for credit unions. Yes, I know it's a bit of a cop-out, but there are just so many different credit unions out there that I had to try to combine them all in one. To give you an idea of how I think about credit union cards, they often provide a more personalized service with lower fees than the big banks do. And in reality, some credit union credit cards actually rival the big banks when it comes to earning categories because they can cover things that the big banks just don't. To name a couple of the biggest credit unions, we have Navy Federal, of course, as well as PenFed. And with those two, we have the More Rewards card through Navy Federal, and the PenFed Platinum Rewards card is also really beneficial. And although I can't cover all of the best credit union credit cards in this video, let me know down below if you'd want to see a video like that. Speaking on credit union cards as a whole again though, typically their points ecosystems are less robust than you'd find from a big lender like Chase or Amex. And once again, basically every credit union card is going to be cashback focused. As with all of the other cashback specific issuers that we've listed, that is going to limit how high I can put them. But just know that there are so many different niche cards within this big bundle here that I think you should consider. Another massive positive to credit union credit cards is that their customer service is usually top notch. And that's because credit unions are member focused institutions. I honestly feel like they could fall into many of these categories here today, but I think the best place to put them for now is going to be in B tier. And I actually think I'm going to put them above Discover, right under Bank of America. I'm honestly tempted to put them above Bank of America, but I guess for one, you do have to do some work to become a part of these credit unions, whether that's donating to them or joining them or whatever. And while yes, you do have to do work to get a lot of value from Bank of America's cards, the ceiling on your earning rates with Bank of America is higher. So I'm going to leave Bank of America as the top of B tier with credit unions right behind. And finally, we come to the issue that you've all been waiting for, American Express. I'd say that Amex has become widely known for its luxury travel card products, specifically the Amex Gold and Platinum, but they have card offerings in all categories, from that premium travel to cashback to hotels, airlines, and business cards. And with their flagship family of cards, the Charge cards, their points ecosystem, Amex Membership Rewards Points, is widely regarded as a leader in the premium travel credit card space, right alongside Chase, if not above them, depending on your use case. One of the best things about Amex in my experience is the fact that their points are very easy to earn, not only from the card's earning categories, but also from like the Amex offers, retention offers, welcome bonuses, referral bonuses, Rakuten, and more. But although membership rewards points are pretty easy to accumulate, they're not always the easiest to redeem. Without getting too far into the weeds here, really the only way that you ever want to redeem your Amex points for good value is with their transfer partners. Luckily for us, they have the largest list of transfer partners in the game, but not all of them are worth the same, and that just requires more time from you to figure out which ones are best. I still personally prefer Chase's point ecosystem just because of their simplicity and flexibility of redemption options, as well as their like special partnership with Hyatt, of course. But if you do put in the time to learning how to use your membership rewards points with Amex, you can get some outsized value. Another big pro for Amex is of course going to be their customer service, which most people would say is the best on the credit card market. And on top of their support, their concierge service and dispute resolution sectors are really top notch, which is why you see a lot of high income earners using their cards. In a separate video, I recently talked about all of the biggest cons that I see with Amex credit cards, and to list those out really quickly, that'd be that they have high annual fees that aren't always justifiable, their perks are geared towards higher spenders, their reward structure can be complicated like I just mentioned, and Amex cards have limited acceptance worldwide compared to Visa and MasterCard. But like I talked about in that video, if you're somebody that does fit their target demographic, that being somebody living in a highly populated metropolitan area who travels multiple times per year, spend a lot of money on your cards, and take the time to do the research on what redemption methods are best, their credit cards are amazing, especially because of their luxury travel perks like the American Express Global Lounge Collection and the Fine Hotels and Resorts program on the hotel side. So obviously I couldn't put Amex anywhere else but S tier. But whether or not they are higher than Chase is the real question. Who is going to be the best lender? After thinking about this for a while, I just don't see a way that I can personally rank Amex above Chase. I know it's going to piss some of y'all off, but just hear me out. I just think that Chase is the better lender for the majority of people out there. I think their points ecosystem is much easier to understand. You have more opportunities to use your points for greater value with them. You don't have to pay for super high annual fee cards like you kind of do with Amex. And with that and more considered, I just have to put Amex as second place to Chase right now. My opinions on this could always change in the future. This entire list is subjective, of course. And like I mentioned earlier, feel free to comment down what you'd rank each of these lenders at, or maybe just a couple of them. And if you did like this ranking style of video, I'd encourage you to click into this video next, where I did a similar thing for all of my credit cards, at least all of the cards that I had a while ago, but all of the information is still very relevant. And as always, Odin and I both want to say thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time.